Friends, family, people of the foil, welcome to episode 13 of PogRX. I am your host, GamerDoc, and we are back for another episode of gaming excellence and fun. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to go. There's certain things that get me fired up, and one of them is excellence. I've been watching the International and Worlds, and watching the skills that these people have is just so cool. It's hard because before I started playing MOBAs like Dota and League, I would watch these games and be like, I have no idea what's going on, and I don't see why this takes skill. But it's just like any sport. If you see what the people are doing in ping pong, if you've never tried to hit that stupid ball with that stupid paddle, it might look easy, right? But anyone who's ever played ping pong knows it's not easy. So playing those games has really made me appreciate the true skill level of those players. So I'm pumped. I'm ready. I've been grinding League. My dog is roaming around in the background behind me. I hope she doesn't do anything silly. Mommy's working. So today on our podcast, we have an excellent guest, Dr. Drew of the Cleveland Clinic and For the Wellness blog. Him and I have been in contact for many, many years, like some of these guests, and it's really been a pleasure to watch his career soar, and I'm pumped to learn from him. I'm so pumped to learn from him. And one of the things that Dr. Drew talks about is ergonomics. We're not going to talk to him about ergonomics. There's some other topics I want to cover, so I just want to go over what that is. And if you've already started droning out because ergonomics is kind of, you think it's a boring topic, let us not go in the boring direction. Let us not. Let's talk about what ergonomics is and the origin of ergonomics for some story time. Oh my god, my dog just hit her head on my desk. I'm a professional. So ergonomics, if you look at the definition, you're like, what is ergonomics? It's the study of efficiency of people in their workplace. And if you think about modern day ergonomics, it kind of feels like HR at companies, right? Like human resources was not created for the benefit of the employee. It was created to protect the employer. So when you look at what modern day ergonomics are doing in the office place, it kind of feels like it's to protect the office's butt. Because it's the application of physiology and engineering to the design of products. Basically, what that means is we're trying to reduce human error, increase productivity, and enhance safety. And those things might not be tied together very well. But I want to talk about the history. So the first time we ever saw ergonomics being used was back in Hippocrates' time, right? Ancient Greece. Hippocrates was the founder of modern day medicine, and he gave this description of how a surgeon's workplace should be organized, which is so funny because like back then they thought that we revolved around the sun and that like the earth was flat, and that if you didn't like pray 3 times a day, your firstborn was going to get killed. But they had ergonomics. Ancient Greece was wild. Ancient Greece was totally wild. I love ancient Greek shows. I like Sparta. Oh my god, I love Sparta. So that was like the first origin of ergonomics. And then you go back to this is when it gets fun for me. So the 1600s and 1700s, this dude was like, all right, we're trying to shovel some coal. We're trying to lay some brick down. What's the most efficient way of doing this? So what he did was he simplified the process. He's like, okay, if you're going to shovel coal, you need a shovel this sized. You're going to shovel this much coal. You're going to walk this direction. You're going to shovel it into there. All right, and you're bringing, a cubic liter of coal every single time. That requires 40 pounds of muscle strength. So in order for people to do this jobs correctly, we need dudes who can lift this much weight, who don't have back problems, who can walk this distance, and who can do this menial task over and over again. So he simplified the process, and he started finding people who were ideal for that job and hiring those people. So that was ergonomics back then, right? You're trying to increase efficiency and productivity. which really worked well for jobs like that, jobs in the 1600s, 1700s. But then as technology progressed, technology is progressing, you can't apply that process when you can't simplify the process, right? So pilots, how do you simplify flying? You can't. You need all of those controls. You need thrusters and eject buttons, and those are the only pilot controls I know. Landing gear, there you go. You need a complex task. So how do you apply ergonomics to that principle? And what they realized was now you have to take into account human error, right? So shoveling, there's not a lot of human error. You shove the shovel into the pile of coal, you fill it up, oh, maybe you drop a couple pieces of coal, whatever, who cares? You shovel it into the other pile. Bricklaying, human error, maybe there's a small gap, whatever. Piloting, right? Aviation, you mess up, people die. You die. You crash into the wrong place. You drop a bomb on the wrong place, right? So they're trying at this point with ergonomics to minimize human error, right? And I love that. I love that so much because they're like, okay, so how do we make this console ergonomic? They're like, okay, that button, that kill switch, that's going to absolutely result in catastrophe, make it big, red, make it the furthest from the pilot's reach on their non-dominant hand, and make it hard to access. So they're not going to accidentally grab that. The stuff that they're using all the time, put it right around the pilot. The stuff you want the pilot's hands to be resting on, make it super comfortable, right? Make the chair so that they can't get dislodged when they're doing maneuvers. Ergonomics is truly, at the end of the day, about minimizing human error, reducing the risk of human error. And when you think about it like that, it's kind of cool. I don't know, I guess I'm like just a bigger nerd. So when we're applying this to gaming ergonomics, how are we reducing human error? Right? And I think it's really twofold. One is our bodies weren't not meant to sit in one spot for extended periods of time. So what you want to do is by setting up your gaming setup, the stuff around you, you want to minimize the risks of injury. And how you do that is you maintain ideal positions. So your wrist, right? We've talked about this before. Your wrist needs to be in neutral. No bend forward or backwards, left or right. Your keyboard, your mouse, anything in front of you should be set up so that it doesn't induce a bend. If I have my keyboard in a weird angle, it's going to put a bend in my wrist, right? If I have my armrest too high, it's going to put a bend in my elbow. So what you want to do is set up everything around you to minimize error so that when you're in the moment, you don't have to worry about that stuff. Is my wrist in neutral? You don't have to worry about that stuff. So that's really, and the second part of that is you want to minimize human error in your performance, right? You want to minimize human error in your performance. So setting up everything around you so that it's easy to access and it's setting you up for success. And that's what gaming ergonomics really is. And it's really not that difficult. So what I want you all to do is go to ezone.com and just Google EZONE, the optimal ergonomics for any gaming setup. It's a graphic that I helped make. I love this company so much. They're creating free resources for you to just go expand your knowledge on gaming. It's like the written form of this podcast. I swear, I love those people. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through every single step. It's not that long. It's going to take you 2 minutes. And make sure that your gaming setup is set up that way. Okay? And then every time someone uses your computer or whatever, you're going to go back and make sure it's good. If you travel for esports events, if you're a competitor, download it on your phone. When you go to a LAN event, when you go to a new practice setting, whatever, make sure your setup is ergonomic. It's your responsibility. It's so easy. It is preventative. It's so easy. All you need to do is just check those boxes. And you're not only going to reduce your risk of injury, but you're going to set yourself up for success. Reduce your human error. Do it. And our PogRx today is that graphic and a little description of it. So if you're watching on video, you can either pause or check out the graphic in its native format. I highly recommend you do this. I do it to my setup every once in a while just to make sure that I haven't accidentally pushed my standing desk button in the wrong direction or something. So here you go, our PogRx for today. High-level gaming requires setting yourself up for success before you even sit down. To do this, you want to make sure your gaming setup is ergonomic. Thanks to the people at eZone, you can make sure you're checking all of the boxes with one handy graphic. The major pieces are you want to make sure your feet are firmly planted on the ground. When they're doing this, you want to make sure there's no pressure on the back of the knees and that your hips are at or just above that knee level. The top of the monitor should be at or just below eye level and around 1 arm's length away. Make sure there's no aggressive bend in the elbows and no hike in the shoulders to ensure you are gaming pain-free and at the top of your performance. All right, y'all, is your setup ergonomic? Did you check? Are you sure? Well, that PogRx is going to help make sure you are right on track. Without further ado, though, we have our first guest and only guest for today. I don't know why I say it like that. Dr. Drew Schwartz is a chiropractor and is a big time over at the Cleveland Clinic. If you don't know what the Cleveland Clinic is, it is like the epitome of excellence in medicine. Like, people go to Cleveland to work at the Cleveland Clinic. It's one of those things, like, we pay doctors a lot of money based on where they go. So doctors in New York City make the least amount of money because you don't need an incentive to work in New York City, right? And they have these, like, in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Cleveland, they have these, like, amazing epitomes of medical excellence, and Cleveland Clinic is one of them. So it's so cool. He also runs a blog and has run one called For the Wellness, where he's worked on esports and gaming care for the multiple years. It's for as long as I've known him. So I'm so excited for this guest. Dr. Drew, welcome to PogRx. How are you doing on this bright morning?
It's a beautiful day here in Cleveland. It's
Day.
not sunny per usual. So yeah, it's good. I'm excited. It's super early. We're both drinking our coffee and got to catch up prior, so that's always good.
That's It's Always Sunny in Cleveland. I think that's a show.
I believe that is a spin-off of Always Sunny in Dallas, but
yeah. I'm going to the Cleveland Browns Detroit Lions football game in a month, so that'll be fun to
In
watch.
Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch them lose terribly.
Yeah, I'm a Vikings fan.
No, well,
Yeah,
well, I don't want to talk about
Well, let's
that.
move on. Next podcast. There we go.
I don't want to talk about that. Okay, field goals. Only team 2 games in a row to lose by a field goal, greater than 50 yards. That's
Tell
us.
you what, I actually low-key loved you guys when you had Calvin Johnson.
Oh my god. Well, now that we've lost all of our gamers talking about football, just kidding.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out there who get really into fantasy football, which I'm completely on board with. In the esports space, because it's like gamification of everything, right?
Yeah, I would agree. Anytime you can gamify anything, like, people will do it. What's it called on Facebook? What was that? Farmtown?
Farmville. Don't age
Farmville.
us, Drew.
Oof.
Dr. Drew, don't age us. So you do a lot of cool things, which I explained before you came on. But why and how mostly do you make gamers better?
Yeah, so I'm a chiropractor. I did my own thing for a while on my blog, and now I'm with Cleveland Clinic. So yes, Cleveland Clinic has chiropractors, which is super cool. But what I really look at is I'm huge on ergonomics and biomechanics, and how that contributes to everything you do throughout the day, and especially with gaming, because as you know, like, while gaming isn't ridiculously strenuous, you do it for a long time, which adds up. And so if you have terrible posture, terrible biomechanics throughout that whole time period, you're going to have problems.
Yep.
And you shouldn't have problems when you're 19, 20, 18 gaming. That's just not a thing. Like, if you're 65 and still, grinding 8 hours a league a day, then yeah, I can see you might deserve it there.
Pain.
But you shouldn't have it when you're younger. So what I really look at is biomechanics, ergonomics, and then a lot of soft tissue work. Looking at trigger points, looking at adhesions, nerve tension, kind of everything there. And then I also do like the adjustments and mobilizations that typical chiropractors do, but it's not the plan, which chiropractic kind of has a spectrum of philosophy, which I don't enjoy, and I'll just leave it at that. It's just like I'm not going to be the old school guy that does pop CEO in a day. Like I'm
Ignores
not
all the
going to be like
myofascial tension.
yeah. My biggest thing and my focus and how I approach it is it's kind of a newer spin where it's just like we need to look at soft tissue. Soft tissue is the thing,
Yeah,
and while I talked about like the adjustments, they're not the plan, but they're part of the plan. It's
totally.
important to get that mobilization in there. So, looking at like soft tissue, we're looking at doing K-taping, therapeutic exercise. Why are you having these muscle imbalances? Looking at your setup, kind of the whole approach rather than just looking at one or the other, because you have to look at that. And I feel like if you're not looking at different aspects of someone's life and biomechanics, then you're almost doing them a disservice, because
Yeah,
you need to be looking at that. You need to be looking at the whole picture, and I like to say like the whole gamer
totally.
approach. So
I want to bring that back because you mentioned trigger points and soft tissue, and some people might not be as familiar with those topics. I have a trigger point in my back right now, and I really need you to come here and fix it. But so, can you just kind of summarize? So, what happens when I'm when I'm gaming for long, long hours, and I'm hunched over and in poor posture. I haven't paid attention to ergonomics. I don't want to read your blog because I can't read. What is happening to the soft tissue in my back, and what is soft tissue? I guess
I guess soft tissues, you know,
tissue that's soft.
muscles, tendons, but it's also we always have to look at like the nerves traveling through that soft tissue. When you get trigger points, it's like a ball of just like an angry mass of inflammation, blood vessels, nerves, muscles, kind of everything under the sun, and it's just sitting in there and irritating it and annoyance, because a lot of times it's overstretched. So when you typically have it like in the traps, levators, stuff like this, these muscles that kind of come up through the back of the neck, when you're kind of hunched over, they're overstrained and stretched all day. And when you have that burning tight sensation, that's not because it's not part of the plan. Like it's not part of what should be occurring as you grind. It is your body saying like, hey, we're tired. We can't support the structure that you're asking us to do. And so we're going to ping you and saying like, hey, this is burning tight. Fix it.
Yeah.
Do something. And then when you kind of correct that, you're like, oh, that feels really good. But people always think that, stretch that trigger point in soft tissue, and you can't. Like, while it feels good and you get that mechanoreception and you're like, oh, this feels awesome. You need to get that stability. You need to pull yourself back so that you can kind of dodge those trigger points. Because if you don't work on those and don't work on that soft tissue or that muscles, like the big meaty parts that you probably see like in your traps and in your forearms, if you're not working on that,
So meaty.
you're going to continue to have that kind of tightness, numbness, and tingling that you get. So the other thing too, I think, is being aware of it. Like like you need to just, I hate like the be mindful and be aware. It's like, yes, that's like everyone drops those bombs, right? But you need to, like, if you have that pain, I have this pain. Why am I getting it? What am I doing? Do the research. Go on a blog. Go on,
I can't read. I told you
check out
that.
GamerDoc. Things like that. You do your research on it, because that's what's going to make you better.
I think we
And being
always.
aware of it and doing it.
You're totally right. I think what we always do is we think about pain so differently than how pain is intended. We think of pain as the problem, whereas pain
Yeah.
is just the symptom, right? You're experiencing pain because your body is sending you a message saying something is wrong, and we treat the pain and we're like, oh, the pain's gone, I'm good.
Yeah.
As
It's like, how'd you get there?
Right, exactly.
How did you get to this spot? And that's what I try and tell my patients too. Like, yes, we can do, we can do some soft tissue work, we can do some adjustments, and we can do all these things. But like, how did you get there? Because if we do this in the office, or when I work with like gamers and I work on them and I say, okay, we got you out of this pain. Look, you can actually squeeze your hand now. You can squeeze my finger. You can open a door. You can be normal, right? But if you go back and you play 8 hours in terrible position like this, and you're just like, you're kicked out like this plane, you're like, I don't know why I have numbness and tingling. This blows my mind.
No
What's
idea.
going on? Yeah, you have to fix what's causing it, because
Yeah.
you're going to continually have it.
So you mentioned nerve glides, which, you know how you have your area of expertise and there's a lot of stuff outside of it that you're familiar with and you understand. Nerve glides are not one of those for me. So people talk about
I just
nerve glides and I'm like, yeah, the nerves gliding stuff through the back and I get that you're pulling the nerve. The concept is you're pulling the nerve back and forth through its like range or whatever. But
Yeah.
can you explain nerve glides to all the people at home who might not know what they are, and definitely not me?
Yeah, I like using nerve glides for like median nerve, ulnar nerve, and sciatic.
So
like
muscles
those
of the
guys.
hand are you talking about?
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
Or the
so like when I do
nerves of
like
the hand.
median and then ulnar,
Yeah.
median, and then sciatic is like down the back of your leg, basically, right? So some of the ones that I like to do, they look weird, like especially ulnar looks really weird because I go like this, and then I do like this, and granted that's end range, but like a lot of people can't even get to like this or like.
So the people tuning in from on audio only, you're making an A-OK sign with your hand, and then you're inverting it so your fingers are like you're making like when you were a kid you used to do the Spider-Man face.
Yeah, think about when you were a kid and you're like, wow, I want to wear spectacles.
I made a mask.
Yeah. Think about you doing that on your face. That's like an ulnar.
Ow.
And then for the median, I like using this guy. So I just like look. So I look at my hand over like I'm looking over my right shoulder technically.
Like you're gonna
and
slap
like
yourself
slowly
in the face.
going out. Yeah. And then you can test it even more. You start like this and go like this.
So my two injuries that I have from gaming right now, well, three, but I have ECU tendonitis and then I have ulnar neuropathy of my left hand. So I'm gonna start doing those nerve glides.
The big thing with those though is like, one, you don't do them a ton throughout the day. I think a lot of patients are like, all right, I'm gonna do this all day. It's like, no, you don't want to do that because that nerve doesn't have that nice elasticity that you have with a muscle. So I tell people do them twice a day for less than a minute and see how you feel. And the other thing too is going up until that tension. Like if I go here and I have tension, then I want to stop it prior and not just be like, if I rip through it, it's going to magically work. Like, no, it's going to be worse. So just you stop up until that tension. That's the other thing too.
And remember everyone at home, this is not medical advice. This is just educational purposes.
It's just two people just having a chat about esports, wellness, drinking coffee. Yeah. And then the sciatic one is really good too. It's hard to demonstrate, but like, I guess I can't do it with my hand, but like as far as doing it, but it's basically like you lean back as your leg is kicking out, and then you lean forward as you're bringing your leg in. Kind of not like that. It's kind of like we're gonna do it out of respect here.
Do it.
Out of respect for the podcast.
Okay.
I'm sitting. It's kind of like this.
Oh, okay. So I need a recliney.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So, and once again, it's not like you're doing that throughout the day and just, constantly. It's, you do it like twice a day for less than a minute and really paying attention and before that you hit that tension. And pay attention while you're doing it. Don't just be like don't just be trying to do a crossword and doing nerve glides. Like just don't do that. Just be in the moment and just be like, all right, I feel attention here. I'm paying attention for a minute.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute and that's fine.
And this show, we've really been trying to give people the why behind things. So I appreciate that you're saying, nerves, they're not as flexible as other structures, right? You may imagine you don't want to pull on an electrical cord. That's what they are, right? You don't want to pull on an electrical cord. You can pull on a rubber band. You can't pull on an electrical cord.
I think, and people, I always tell people like, nerves are pretty stupid, right? Like they are just going to be like, hey, I'm getting compressed. Ping, 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 ping. And then you're like, your mind's like, but where? And they're like, I don't know, man. I'm just here. Yeah. So you have to like, you have to do some digging on your own because they don't give you much info.
But where? And I think a good one, I always, one of the things that I'm really good at, right? We're talking about wheelhouses is pain. That's what I worked treating for years and years and years. And the best describers that I would say is nerve pain crosses more than two joints most of the time. Not all the time, but there's not a lot of muscles that cross two joints. So if you're having pain that goes from your pinky across your wrist joint into your forearm, across your elbow joint into your upper arm, chances are that is a nerve issue.
Yeah. And I think too, like when you have those nerve issues, it's a lot of people be like, "Oh, I got carpal tunnel." It's like, well, no.
Probably not.
Like how tight is the pec? What's your trap look like? What's your scalenes look like? Like how many trigger point or how many adhesions do you have in your forearm? Like look at all those things, not just like the pain's here. It's probably just here. Like no, it's probably a compression of like all minute compressions through that whole kind of chain as it runs down. rather than just like here, because
Yeah.
that's where it's like presenting itself.
Right.
But that's not the case too.
And what we're talking about is nerve pain, y'all. But in the beginning, it's nerve pain, but then the nerves control your muscles. So if nerve pain's untreated, then you start to get a weakness, and that's when it becomes possibly irreversible, and that's when you start to see the effects outside of just pain. So I want to talk about adhesions because that's my second to last question. You've talked about them a couple times now. What do you mean? So is there like glue inside my body that is getting stuck together? What's happening? Why are there adhesions in my body?
I guess I kind of think of them, and everyone's going to kind of have a different take on this, but like a fibrotic like adhesion or like just like junk, like
Fiber optic, like
your muscles,
5G cable.
your muscles should, and like everything in there should move fluidly.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything should just move nice. That's how it's meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
One, make sure you're drinking water. That helps significantly with getting fluidity. Shout out to dedicated water bottles in the chat. You know,
Same.
Hydro Flask. If you could
Hydro
sponsor us,
Flask.
great. Could be great. But you know, everything should glide easily through that. And when you don't have that, and when you have kind of a chronic irritation, annoyance in there, your body's just going to kind of like, let's say you punch a hole in the wall, you backload over. That's how the body works. It's not going to be like, you know, let's replace this whole drywall, and then we're going to do this and do this to make it look so pretty. Your body's like, spackle, let's move on. We got to roll.
Go.
You know, so when you have those adhesions in it, the body is trying to fix itself. One, the tissue's usually not, almost always not as good as the original, right? So it's not gliding as well. It's not moving as well. It feels like you almost have like a catch sometimes, or it feels like you have like also like a weakness through like a range of motion. So if like you are moving your hand, I see it a lot in hamstrings as well. Like when you work on those hamstrings and like someone's on their stomach and all of a sudden they go like this and they kind of speed through range of motion and they go back and they can control it. It's like in that spot, we want to look at that coordination. Like, is there adhesions within that? Is there like a neuromuscular connection through there? Off topic, but
it.
you know, we're looking at adhesion that it's not moving well. It's like your body's spackled over an injury. It's not moving as well. It's not gliding as well. That in turn means you might not be able to, you know, use your controllers, your joysticks as well. You might not be able to, you know, click as fast and, you know, farm minions as well. You might not be able to, you know, do
That's
whatever
why I
as
can't
well
last
in a game.
Hit. That's why. That's
why
my
I play jungle.
adhesions.
That's why I play jungle. No one messes with my camps. Well, yeah, no one messes with my camps. So I can last hit red Gromp. That's fine. Or not Gromp.
I want to learn.
Red
I want to be better with my creep control before I jungle. I want to be good at laning before I go jungle because I feel like that's so essential.
I jungle because I can't lane.
Well,
so there.
Well,
truths are being told today. Like I hate laning. I get so bored. I'm just like level 2. I'm like, we should probably go all in.
We should probably dive. I'm gonna tower dive.
Yeah.
So all right, Dr. Drew, this has been. I feel like people like you and Coach Taylor and other people in the space, every time I talk to you, you're speaking about something different, which is amazing because it means that you're continuing to learn. You know, like, and I'm not saying that my past guests don't say that. What I'm saying is I love talking to you because you're always learning and you're always pushing that boundary and you're always on to the next thing. You have your wheelhouse and you have your tools, but you're always adding tools to that toolbox. So I love this. So my very last question is, you have that giant toolbox of things that you can use to make people better, healthier, but better. If you're going to take one tool out that will make people that they can do today to make them a better gamer tomorrow, what are you going to tell people to do?
I mean, I think, look, you know what? I'll give the people what they want. They want to. Let's give them a BOGO. So I'll give them 2.
Okay, what's a BOGO?
Buy one, get one.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a Midwest term.
But yeah, out of the gate, like taking breaks are huge. Every 34 minutes, like I know it's not ideal. Like a lot of times it's not feasible, but even if you can do it for like 30 seconds, you can even keep your headset on. Like just go and do something because you know resets your mental. You can go grab a healthy snack, fill up your water bottle. You can go walk the dog quick. Like you can do those things and get a break from that.
Yeah.
Because the other thing too is like the second part of it is get up and move. And when you do these things that we talked about, you can also like do some air squats. You can do a push-up. You can rip out some high knees. If you have a pull-up bar, you can do that. Even if you want to do like a simple like spinal mobility on like an exercise ball, getting some thoracic spine extension, mid back extension, and decompressing your low back because you're sitting on it all day. Like getting up and moving however you like to move, do that. I'm not going to go run. I hate running more than anything in this world. But I do like doing some HIIT. I do like, doing some mobility work. So I will do that. But anything to get you moving, because we know that you play better when you move mentally. It quote gets the blood flowing, right?
Totally.
You see benefits in like problem solving and decision making. And honestly, like if you have I play a lot of League. So when I am tilted and I hate all my teammates, I'll get up and just kind of reset that tilt and reset that frustration and do some squats,
when
do some
you're
push-ups,
dead
and you feel better.
The death timer is counting down. You're talking about, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like you get so annoyed and you can spiral onto a losing streak.
Totally.
So just like reset it and just do some push-ups and just really get out that anger, and that's going to be a heck of a lot better for you than just like sitting there and going right on Twitter and then or something like that. Like take a break, get up, move, and just do something healthy, but start small.
I love it. Yesterday I was playing a game of League and I fed the top twice because the jungler roamed in my lane twice, and I was about to get reported. I was about to get tilted, and then I was like, "That didn't happen. New game right now," and we came back and won. All because of me, obviously. Right.
Yeah, and I think the League is just so crazy. Like 5 minutes in, people are like forfeit. You're like, oh my gosh, can you not? Like,
can we not? Dr. Drew, you have been absolutely fantastic. What you're doing at Cleveland Clinic is amazing. I can't wait. We're going to have you on every couple of months just to get updates, because I feel like there's so many things that we need to talk about that we haven't talked about. We have like 30 seconds left. I'm going to kick it back to you. Anything you want to bring? Your Twitter handle has been below you this whole time, but anything you want people to, call attention to, or the floor is yours.
Yeah, so my blog is forthewellnessblog.com. It's very long. I apologize. But yes, for the wellness blog, I try and do a lot on Twitter as much as I can. I do some on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn can get a little weird sometimes. So I'm a huge fan of like Twitter. Go on my blog, and you can reach me there. And I try and post reviews, tips, kind of all that stuff. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Reach out if you need it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and have a good week. Dr. Drew wants you to take a break every 30 and 40 minutes. And I think when people hear that, right, you hear take a break, you're like, oh, I can't take a break every 30, 40 minutes. He said you can keep your headset on. You can stay at your setup. You don't have to get up and do a bunch of jumping jacks. You can just give it a little stretch, give your mind a mental reset, and then go back into it. It's so easy. It's so easy, right? If it's so easy, why didn't I do it last night when I was playing League for 3 hours? I don't know. Don't ask me those questions. That is it for our episode. Thank you again for tuning in. This has been episode 13. So if you missed any of those, go back through, watch them all. Let me know what you think. Let me know on Twitter. I'm your host, GamerDoc. This has been an absolute pleasure. Have a happy and a healthy week. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this show. For more information, follow GamerDoc on Twitter at GamerDoc_. And please remember, nothing in this video is medical advice. Yes, I am a doctor, and yes, you may need help. But this is the internet, and this is for entertainment and informational purposes only. Thank you, and have a very nice day.